They were once booming hubs of opportunity, but now they're being emptied out, street by street. What happened to Australia's forgotten cities?
Well, they used to be the bustling heart of a community, but right across the country, suburban shopping strips are dying. These days, there are more for lease signs than there are shoppers, and family businesses that thrived for decades are closing their doors.
This is what's happening to our country. All the way along here, empty shops. This country is a joke, absolute joke. We can do better.
No way people are gonna come. They need to do more.
It's been quite sad to see a lot of businesses closing, a lot of cafes and small businesses. It's definitely kind of decreased the vibrancy.
People would walk around with their families, their children, with their prams, and it was just fun. It was really a fantastic time. But now things have changed.
I think landlords are getting greedy, and businesses that have got the landlord who keeps putting the rent up have to put their prices up on their food and inflation, and I feel for them.
City number 1, Whyalla, South Australia, steel town on the edge. Once the industrial heart of South Australia, Whyalla was built around the BHP steelworks. In the 1970s, it was a booming town of over 30,000 people. Today, that number has dropped to around 20,000 and continues to shrink. The steelworks, while still operating, has faced repeated crises. Ownership changes, layoffs, and global market pressure have battered the local economy. At times, the entire city's future seemed to hinge on whether the plant would shut down. Youth unemployment in Whyalla hit 26% in 2023. Many young people see little future there. Schools are closing, shops are shuttered, and homes sit unsold for months. Locals like 54-year-old mechanic Tony Walsh say, "It feels like we're just waiting for the last light to go out." City number 2, Burnie, Tasmania. From pulp to peril. Burnie, a port city on Tasmania's northwest coast, was once the epicenter of the island's paper and timber industries. But after the pulp mill closure in the 2010s, the town's economy crumbled. Burnie's population has fallen by nearly 10% over the last decade, and what's left is aging. Over 25% of residents are now above retirement age. Job growth is stagnant, and young people flee south to Hobart or across the Bass Strait to Melbourne. A 2024 report by the Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce ranked Burnie the least economically dynamic region in the state. The once bustling waterfront now looks more like a relic of the past than a vision for the future. City number 3, Geraldton, Western Australia, stranded by boom-bust cycles. Geraldton should be thriving. It has beaches, a port, and proximity to mining operations in Western Australia's Midwest. But instead, it's suffering from the all-too-familiar boom-bust cycle of resource towns. During the mining boom of the early 2000s, Geraldton expanded rapidly. Property prices surged and local businesses thrived. But when commodity prices dropped, the exodus began. Population growth stalled. As of 2023, the city had an unemployment rate 3.5% higher than the state average. Drug use and petty crime have surged. Tourism has declined too, with fewer people willing to drive the long distances required to reach the town. Residents complain about crumbling roads, long hospital wait times, and the lack of opportunities. The town feels more isolated now than it did 20 years ago, despite all the infrastructure that was promised. City number 4, Broken Hill, New South Wales, mining ghost town. Broken Hill is Australia's oldest mining town, once known as the Silver City. For over a century, it was a pillar of the national economy. But that legacy is wearing thin. The mines that once brought wealth and population now employ a fraction of their former workforce. Young people continue to leave, and the median age has climbed past 46. Between 2011 and 2021, the city lost nearly 2,000 residents. That might not sound like much, but for a town of just 17,000, it's significant. The local council has tried to reinvent the town as a tourist and arts destination, but with limited success. The economic base just isn't there. Schools are merging, and the local hospital has been plagued with staff shortages. City number 5, Mount Gambier, South Australia, living on a knife's edge. Mount Gambier sits between Adelaide and Melbourne and has long served as a regional hub. It's surrounded by rich farmland, forests, and caves, but it's fading. Population growth has flatlined, and the local economy, once powered by timber and agriculture, has become fragile. Youth unemployment is over 18%, and the city struggles to attract new business. The 2024 South Australian Regional Audit listed Mount Gambier among the top 5 towns most at risk of long-term economic stagnation. While the town tries to reinvent itself through regional tourism, it hasn't been enough. Locals express deep frustration that government focus and investment rarely make it past Adelaide's borders. City number 6, Grafton, New South Wales, a river town drifting away. Grafton, on the Clarence River, was once a thriving agricultural and shipping center. But since the decline of river transport and the downsizing of its dairy and sugar industries, the town has struggled. The construction of the new highway bypass in 2020, while intended to improve transit, had an unintended consequence. It diverted tourism and traffic away from the town center. Local businesses report declines in revenue of up to 30% since the bypass opened. Grafton's youth population has declined significantly, with schools merging and sporting clubs folding. The once grand Jacaranda Festival now attracts fewer tourists each year, and many locals say the town has lost its heart. City number 7, Morwell, Victoria, post-coal collapse. Located in the Latrobe Valley, Morwell was at the core of Victoria's coal-fired energy industry. When the Hazelwood Power Station closed in 2017, over 750 direct jobs were lost, and thousands more were affected indirectly. Efforts to pivot to renewable energy and retrain workers have been slow and inconsistent. The unemployment rate in Morwell is among the highest in the state, and youth disengagement is at critical levels. Vacancy rates in commercial properties are rising. Entire blocks of shops remain shuttered. Public housing has expanded, but so too have reports of crime and drug use. Despite government promises, many residents feel abandoned. "They pulled the plug and left us in the dark," says local shop owner Maria Vella. The human impact. These cities aren't just losing numbers, they're losing communities, identity, and hope. Consider this: a family in Geraldton may be forced to split, with children moving to Perth for university and never returning. An elderly couple in Burnie may find themselves without nearby healthcare as hospitals centralize. In Whyalla, kids grow up knowing more people who've left than who've stayed. There's a psychological toll when a city is in visible decline. Hope evaporates. Mental health issues rise. Crime becomes a survival mechanism. The ripple effects of depopulation are real. The fewer people that remain, the less viable businesses become. Local governments receive less in tax revenue, which in turn reduces public services. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle of decline. Can they be saved? Some argue that targeted investment could reverse the tide. Infrastructure upgrades, job creation schemes, and better education pipelines might keep residents and attract newcomers. Others believe these cities are victims of inevitable economic shifts and suggest focusing on making them livable retirement destinations or regional tourism hubs. But either path requires attention, something many of these towns haven't had in years. While Canberra spends billions on metropolitan infrastructure, regional Australia continues to fall apart. Without bold intervention, these towns may continue to fade until they vanish entirely. What this means for the nation. When cities die, it's not just a local tragedy, it's a national failure. The decentralization of Australia's population was once seen as a goal. Yet now, the country is consolidating into a few megacities, with regional areas fading into irrelevance. If this trend continues, it will mean more pressure on capital city infrastructure, less food and resource production from neglected rural areas, and a deeply divided nation, urban elites and rural castaways. Australia can't afford to write off these towns, not just for economic reasons, but for the soul of the country. Subscribe for more breakdowns of Australia's real economic story. To understand how this collapse started, watch this video here.